Welcome into another edition of the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm Tim Dennis. Great show today as we have an interesting concept to talk to you about, brought to you by two of your most favorite people on paranormal television. I know I'm being vague here. I'm being vague here for a reason, but everything will be cleared up in the next few minutes. Joining me today are Dustin Pari and Brian J. Cano, and I'm glad to have both on the program. Dustin Pari, of course, you know from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International. And of course, on the paranormal circuit, he's doing different lectures, everything from paranormal to inspirational speaking. And of course, a resident of Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm excited to talk to him today as he's been on our program in the past, and happy to have him back on as well. Brian J. Cano has been on our program as well. Currently a featured analyst on Travel Channel's Paranormal Caught on Camera. Also guesting on History Channel's The Curse of Oak Island, Drilling Down, and The Unexplained with William Shatner, as well as a tech specialist for Sci-Fi's Haunted Collector team. And great to have Brian J. Cano on as well. Boys, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be here, Tim. Thanks for having us.
Hey, I'm very pleased because you're one of the few people in the field who pronounces my last name correctly. So kudos to you, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, and it's been a while, so I'm glad I could talk to both of you and get you both in the same room and be able to mispronounce both your names. So I'm going to try and do that during the length of the program. You know, during yesterday's program, let's just jump into the frying pan for a quick second, and then we'll get on to other business. During yesterday's program, I had a news story on Supernatural News about a new convention that was coming to Florida. And I got to say, I was a little underwhelmed. And I know you both are doing the paranormal convention circuit right now. And Dustin's been doing a lot of speaking lately, not just paranormal, but I know you're doing some inspirational speaking. And actually, I want to direct to Dustin first. You've been doing a lot of speaking. You've been doing inspirational speaking. You're doing Christian speaking. You're doing paranormal speaking. So I wanted to throw this kind of your way. You're doing a lot of different speaking here, Dustin, and not just paranormal. Yes. Mm-hmm. First of all, let's veer off a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the inspirational and the Christian speaking. Give us a little taste of the different type of speaking you're doing, not just paranormal. I'm interested in that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you always dance with who brought you, you know, and I love the paranormal, loved it since I was a kid. I still am inspired to go out and do it, to work in the field, to connect with spirit. But after doing it for so long, I've realized that for me, the bigger picture is, you know, it's nice to say you want to go to someone's home or business and try to explain to them, you know, the paranormal, try to explain to them the spiritual world and why these things happen and help them out with it. But as I always say, you know, we are spirits going through a human experience. And while we're here, I kind of want to help those spirits out too. And I want us all to make the best of this human experience. And as I see, you know, people would recognize me from television and for whatever reason would reach out, you know, via social media or email, and ask me for advice about things, and not just paranormal things, but like, you know, it was weird. It was like love life advice and work advice, and that was fine. But then it became more serious, and people write to me about cutting or self-harm, and for whatever reason, they felt like a connection with me. And I'm not a trained therapist, but I always tell people I have a helpful heart. And I was glad to write back to them. And I started to do more of that. And more people would come to the conventions and come to talk to me about things I wrote to them or I posted. And I wanted people to know, listen, this experience isn't easy for any of us. Like, I struggle as much as anybody else. And I started doing a lot of work for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in terms of lectures and fundraising. And so it's very important to me to do that type of thing. And I've been very blessed with a lot of new platforms and opportunities to do so. And so, yeah, I travel around anywhere from middle schools up to corporate America doing motivational and inspirational lectures. The Christian ones just kind of at local churches and such. I believe that all religions really come down to love. I was raised with a Christian understanding, but I kind of went my own way for a while. I studied a lot of Eastern philosophy and religion and such. And Christianity just makes sense for me, but I promote the bigger picture for everybody. And so I just want to try to do my best while I'm here to help people through all of this thing.
So I got to ask you, Dustin, are we at a point now, and have you found this out throughout the last maybe decade or so, are we getting to a point where things are looking a little bit darker and people need a little bit more help and they need that shoulder and that ear to lean on?
Yeah, I kind of feel like, and my wife makes fun of me and says it's because I'm an old man inside, but I really point to technology as a lot of the problem. And it is great. I mean, look, we're doing this interview here, right? Like I'm in my home, Brian's at his, you're there.
Yep.
But at the same point, that which connects us also divides us so very much. I was traveling home a couple of years ago, I think 2019. I was in Newark, and at the airport, all of a sudden they put in all these iPads everywhere, and there was an advertisement on them. Like, we have 1,400 whatever iPads in this one area, and like, I couldn't believe they were mounted, hard mounted on every table, so you couldn't sit across from somebody and look at them clearly because this tech always has to be between you, and it gets so frustrating to me because I just feel like I see people getting divided more and more. And so I went to the bar to try to grab a drink, and I asked the bartendress there for a beverage, and she's like, "Oh, just put your card in the computer and type in what you want." And I'm thinking, you've got alcohol, I've got money. Why is there a robot? Like, I don't understand what the heck's going on. And I feel more and more that, especially when I work with the middle schools and kids, especially the last 2 years, like Zoom meetings, Zoom school, this, that, and the other, we're losing our humanity. We're losing the face-to-face ability to talk. And it's so weird, like that which divides us. People like fight about religion and politics. It's like we were raised not to talk about those things, but we should have been raised to talk about those things, to be able to appreciate people's differences, the understandings, and respect that, and also maybe celebrate those differences and celebrate our commonalities. But instead, we just kind of push each other further and further away. And I feel like, kids come home and they've had a tough day, or an adult comes home and has a tough day. You try to turn to your partner, your spouse, or whoever it is, a family member, and they're half on their phone playing the game, half watching a TV show. We're living all these like weird virtual half lives, and we're not spending the time actually connecting like we used to. And even when it comes to investigating, I'll bring it back home. Like,
sure,
we should be connecting with spirit because we are spirit. We shouldn't have to wait for the newest thing that lights up. Like, we can still go old school and communicate using early methods because we are still spirit inside. We don't need to put a K2 meter between the two of us to have a conversation. Interesting.
Let me ask you this. I know, I'm going to bring it back a little bit too. I'll yank it back and bring it back. I know on YouTube, you do have a 60-day motivation video series on your YouTube. I'm finding too that people seem to need motivation, that we're not a society of self-starters anymore. It seems like more and more we're looking to lean on each other to get moving. Why do you find that is?
Yeah, I put together that little YouTube series, Hey, Got a Minute? And I've got another batch of episodes coming out in the new year. And I appreciate you checking it out. And I try to make quick little videos to help people to motivate through life. And I think a lot of it has become because we're material based, because we're reward based. So one of my favorite little soliloquies that I bring up so often at my various lectures comes from the book Fight Club. By Chuck Palahniuk. And within that book, within the movie, Tyler Durden's character states very clearly, advertising has us doing jobs we don't like, to make money, to buy things we don't need, to impress people that we don't even like. I remember reading that and thinking, wow, that really sums up what I see going on around us all the time. I really feel like we've lost our spiritual ways, and regardless if that's religion, God, goddess, whatever that may be for you, this is why I think the paranormal is so important, because I think that we feel that void inside, and we fill that void with alcohol, with drugs, like anything in excess is not good, whatever it may be. I enjoy a good beer and such too, but we fill that void with excess and material things, and then we wonder why we still feel empty inside. And we feel empty so much that we just wonder, why the hell do I bother? Why get up and brush my teeth? Why bother going to work? Like, why bother doing any of this? And I'll tell you, going out and doing an investigation and having an amazing experience, and then going back to work and watching people punching buttons like a bunch of monkeys in front of blue screens, it is disparaging. It sucks. I don't want to do that. I know there's more to this world. And why aren't we pursuing that? We're constantly distracted. We're constantly divided. We live in debt and in dystopia. And I feel like if we could embrace our spiritual selves and look beyond the material, we would feel much better about who we are and what we're doing here. But instead, we're told, go to school, get a job, pay your mortgage, then die. That's not living. That's not life. And I think we need to get motivated to live in a better way and beyond this material realm.
And that's why Dustin and I are going to move out to a burned out old shack on the other side of the tracks and start Project Mayhem.
I'm with you. I'm with you, brother.
Boy, I'm ready to join you both. I'm fired up listening to both of you. So let me bring this back around full circle now. As we started up the program, I was pointing out the convention circuit. And actually, the convention circuit is very therapeutic for a lot of people who love the paranormal who can't get out to do some of the events where they are out on a ghost hunt or out on a paranormal investigation where they do connect with spirit. They do get to connect with guys like you who they see on television. And they get a charge out of that. And they get to meet you up close and personal, and they get to say hi to you, and they, get to shake your hand. They get to talk to you a little bit about, topics like we're talking about here. And they get to go home and they have that charged up feeling. Recently, yesterday we were reading about a new event that's taking place in Florida. And I was a little underwhelmed about what I had read, to be honest with you. It didn't seem like anything that was new and different. Today, we're going to, in a few minutes, talk about something new and different that the two of you have come up with. But I do want to talk about a story that had been floating around recently on social media that was a little alarming, maybe a little discouraging, but I guess one that is kind of getting swept along the wayside. And I want our listeners to kind of understand something about this story as well. And not to take it on a negative spin or kind of buy into the hyperbole behind it or take it down a negative drain, so to speak. And that has to be with, there are some conventions out there, and this has happened throughout the last few years, actually throughout the last 8 to 10 years, as far as I know. And that is some conventions out there, and it's not just one promoter, but there's been a few promoters out there that have had conventions and not been able to pay their, some of the speakers that have been at these conventions. And you hear about it, unfortunately, on social media because it gets taken to social media by some people because they haven't been paid. I guess I'm looking to you guys to kind of comment a little bit about that and in that, and we'll start with you, Brian. I would ask you this question. Do you look upon it as nature of the beast? Sometimes that happens, or is it something that really needs to be cleaned up in what we do?
Well, it's a good question. It's an important question, something that definitely needs to be addressed. But in order to clean it up, one would have to take the human ego out of the equation, and that's just not possible. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for a long time. We've all seen each other at events. There's good events, there's bad events, there's small events, there's big events. And I do think it is the nature of the beast that sometimes, you'll roll the dice, you'll take your chances, and I got to rub a check. I hate it when it happens, but this is the advice I give to people because they come to me all the time and they say, "Oh, Brian, I'm looking to start up an event. I want to run a convention," because they've gone to good events. And just like the TV shows, again, this is the paranormal. There's no training required. There's no jacket required. You watch a TV show, you buy a black T-shirt, you get a website, domain name, and you're rolling. And then after a month, you're wondering, well, why don't I have a TV show? And we've seen this entitlement. And it can be good because we get some good people out of that. It could be bad. We get some people who should leave. But we also see this on the convention circuit that someone will go to a great event and go, I could do this. Or, oh, well, my area doesn't have this. Wouldn't it be great if these guys can come to my area? And unfortunately, for the good events, since they put so much hard work behind it, behind the scenes, they make it look easy. Mm-hmm. And the average person goes, this is easy. I can do this. But you can't. And to leapfrog off of Dustin's Tyler Durden quote, we've all been raised to believe that we could be rock stars and movie gods, but we won't.
Right.
We're slowly discovering this fact, and we are very pissed off.
Yeah.
And this is the convention circuit round, and yeah, we saw it on social media last week. I was there. Dustin was there. But it's one of those things where hopefully it'll get worked out. Mm-hmm. Hopefully things will be made right. But what people have to understand, and I tell people this when they ask me, well, what advice do you have for a new person in the paranormal? my advice to them would be the same advice I would give to fledgling promoters. Know why you're doing this and wear your intentions on your sleeve. If you're a new investigator, all right, maybe you had an experience and you want to delve into that, or maybe you're just curious and want truth, or maybe you want to be on a TV show. That's fine. All these reasons are valid, but let everyone around you know it. So you have a lot of promoters who will confide in me, and they're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we just had a barbecue and Jason were there and Zach were there and John Zaffis were there. And, they just want to hang out and hobnob with the TV people. And that's fine. But go to a convention. Don't run your own, because conventions are business and they need to be run like a business with caution and intelligence.
Right.
And it's if I may, Tim, to add to Brian's point, which I agree with completely.
Sure.
It's also easy to vilify, convention promoters, the people that for some reason can't pay the bill. And I've been around long enough to know that sometimes, unfortunately, there are good and bad people out there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do have bad people that their own intention was to kind of embezzle the funds and keep what they could keep. There was never intention to pay you. But then there are other conventions where that was not the intent at all. And
right.
it didn't work. They were betting on the odds of ticket sales to help pay the overhead. And it just didn't work out. And they do the best they can behind the scenes to try to get people paid, to try to get people caught up. And sometimes you can make arrangements and deals to get a little bit less than what you're supposed to get. But it doesn't mean just because something didn't go right that the person had, the worst of intentions or that they're a bad person. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not speaking for everybody, but I know myself, there's been points in my life where I wanted to pay that credit card company, but I just didn't have any money. It's not like I'm swimming in my coins and like, I'm not giving any to you. I just didn't have it, and so I know what it's like to be on that side. And so it's important to always keep that in mind, too. We can't paint with a broad stroke and say, OK, all these people are evil. Sometimes just, life rolls the wrong way. Maybe they didn't go about it the right way. Maybe it was an overreach. But the majority of the conventions and the promoters are good people. And I think most of us that go and do them, of course, we do get a payday out of it. We do that. It's not charity work. But at the same point, if you can't afford to go out to do an event, at some point you have to, keep that in the back of your head that check might be rubber, like Brian said, so like you have to also take care of your own interests and see what's a good risk and what's a good gamble and what isn't. And sometimes that is part of the nature of the beast for sure.
Running events are hard. I mean, I've spent the last year and a half running my own events, surviving through COVID, and I find myself at that precipice again with Dustin as we roll into the new year, planning an event, planning this thing that's developing before us that I think we should probably spend a couple of minutes talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
The king of segues, ladies and gentlemen.
Before you get to that, just a real quick story here, Brian, and then we'll roll into that. I'll tell you, I've promoted different types of events, and I've promoted wrestling cards. I know it's not quite paranormal events, but
I love wrestling.
Well, there you go. I did a Lucha Libre card on Cinco de Mayo. You would think that this would be slam dunk, right? Lucha Libre card, Cinco de Mayo. Had some really good Lucha Libre workers. Did it over in St. Paul. I'm thinking that this thing is going to be, and especially since it was maybe 6 to 7 blocks away from a high Hispanic population, I'm thinking I'm going to probably do good business. Boy, this thing just sank. I mean, it sank, but you got to keep in mind as a promoter that you have to have your money up front, right? So I had sponsors, I had my money up front. All the boys got paid, ring got paid, building was paid, insurance was paid, everything was paid ahead of time on the card, with the idea that you can't ever do a show without everybody being taken care of first. I just think the idea is, and again, there's a difference between doing a show and making sure your bases are covered, which is the professional way to go about it, and just having a dream and thinking, if I just put together the greatest show I can put together, everybody's just going to magically show up and it's going to be a success.
It's not Field of Dreams.
No,
Right.
no.
It's not.
If you build it, they don't always come.
That's right. And
Yeah.
and with that, we can. You know what? Let's take our break early. Let's do it right now. When we come back, I want to talk about this new event that you guys are starting, called Pathways. And let's find out a little bit about that when we come back. And let's take our break right now. Our guests are Dustin Pari and Brian J. Cano. When we come back, let's find out exactly what Pathways is. I think you're going to be amazed, folks, when we get into it. And it's something different on the paranormal spectrum. Pathways. When we come back next on the Best in Paranormal Podcasting, this is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm Tim Dennis. My guests are Dustin Pari and Brian J. Cano, and we're going to talk now about something different in the game of paranormal events. Trying to think of a way of putting this, fellas, that because it is something different. I don't have quite the description of it, so we're just going to jump into it. It's called Pathways. And I don't have a description for it. So I guess we'll start with you, Dustin. How would you describe Pathways?
It's a little slice of life, you know. It's funny how things come about, and Brian and I, despite knowing each other, on the circuit for many years, never really had opportunity to work just together until 2020, and then we started to realize we had a nice little thing going on when we worked together that was really smooth, and then we realized that we also, although we like to entertain people. We like to tell the stories and bring people on the ghost hunts and such. We're very much into education and also involvement of the participants. And so we wanted to do something that was different. And we were doing a little gig together down in New Jersey. And we decided to kind of put the investigation in the hands of the investigators that were with us, giving them certain options, certain choices along the way, instead of the usual, kind of cookie cutter thing that we've all become accustomed to over the years. And what we've developed is a really immersive adventure for people to come along with. Now, it's not a ghost hunt. It's not a ghost hunt. You're not going to be investigating a building with us per se, as we're going to be just doing this at theaters. But you're going to be leading us on investigations in various places that most people don't have a lot of access to, utilizing some video elements and some on-stage demonstrations. So people are constantly going to be involved in this. And the wonderful part about it is Pathways, it is hard to describe because it's constantly evolving. The idea has already evolved since we started, and we haven't even kicked it off yet, which is going to be coming up in Carolina. So, Brian, why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the things that we got planned for everybody?
Well, the reason Pathways exists, I think the universe grabbed us and said, okay, there's a problem. People have investigation frustration. We've all been there. You're safe on your couch at home watching your favorite paranormal TV show, and maybe the team does something that you wouldn't. And you're like, oh, come on, don't go in there. Or the classic movie thing, don't go in there. And you're yelling at the screen, but that's not going to do anything. You're not going to adjust their course. You're not going to change anything. But here at Pathways, you will, because we're bringing this show. And that's what it is. It's a show. It's an in-person thing. Think of it like medieval times. You show up to an auditorium and you know you're going to have a paranormal adventure. How's it going to go? Well, there's no jousting, but there is going to be an investigation. Oh, but are we going to investigate the theater? No. Dustin and I will be your hosts on a video, almost choose your own adventure type adventure, where you're going to pick what haunted location we go to from a list of choices, and then we'll roll the footage. And you'll see Dustin and I arrive at the place, give you a little bit of history, and then the choice is yours. Okay, do we go in through the front? Do we go in through the back? All right, we're going through the back. All right, there's a stairway. It goes down, and then there's a grand ballroom. Do we go to the ballroom, or do we go downstairs? Oh, let's go to the ballroom. Well, this is the site where old man Carruthers is often seen dragging chains across the floor. How are we going to contact him? Should we go old school with the pendulum, or maybe break out Gary Galka's latest device? The choices are in the hands of the audience, and they'll be put to the decision to see where Brian and Dustin virtually go. And that means the adventure is different every time. So you can come to see a Pathways performance, make different decisions, and see a different investigation, maybe at the same place. But it's going to be unique because the people are in charge of the action.
And some of the fun of this too is we're not just going to be sitting there watching video clips, although that is part of it. We're going to then demonstrate whatever techniques get discussed, whatever comes up. We're going to demonstrate on stage with some of the patrons that are there with us. We want to get everybody involved, and we also want to educate them on different techniques, different theories, have conversation. It's not just a lecture. It's not just watching video clips. It's learning together. As you know, Brian and I both, combined have over 40-something years of experience doing this type of work, traveling the world. It's nice to be able to put that on stage and not just entertain people and tell them stories, but also try to evolve what we all do. And I think that as we travel, as the show grows, as we go on the pathways, we're going to learn also from our audience as they're going to learn from us. And then there are some secret things that we can't talk about yet, but there's an underlying experiment in the whole thing, which will be revealed at the end of the path. So we're looking forward to see how it all shakes out.
And the audience, the target audience of this is like, yes, we're paranormal people, and we really hope that those people who watch us and love our shows come out to see it. This is almost an introductory type event for the rest of the population, because paranormal, still very much a niche, a bubble interest among people. We want the average person to come here like, oh, well, what's this all about? They might not buy a ticket to a convention. They might not come to a ghost hunt with the gadgets and the gear, but maybe they'll come and they'll see this because it's a 2-hour adventure presentation. Again, like I said, like medieval times, you spend the evening, you hang out with us, you see some things, and maybe it sparks your curiosity. Maybe it gets you going like, oh, that was cool. I want to learn more about this. I want to do this for real. And who knows, we might usher in a whole new generation of investigators.
Yeah, and I think, too, for the investigators that do go out there regularly, some of the locations we're going to aren't ones that you can always get access to. So just to see some of the insides and the interiors of these places and snippets of an investigation, because these video segments aren't going to be long. We're not just sitting there showing you a movie the whole time. But it'll be nice for people to see places that they're like, man, I always want to investigate that place, but they don't allow it. It's not like you can buy a ticket and go to Waverly Hills and hang out for 6 hours,
Well, what hits me is interesting, and actually a few thoughts come up to me as I hear you guys talking about this. One, there are quite a few places that are shut down right now because of COVID that won't allow you to go into these places. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you're giving people an opportunity to go into certain places that maybe they wouldn't have access to anyways, or maybe they don't have the opportunity to get a group together to go into these places. So it seems like you're giving people an opportunity to do that. Or maybe people don't have the opportunity to get to know a group of paranormal investigators to do that sort of thing. Because normally if it's just me, like let's say Tim Dennis wants to go to one of these locations that you're featuring in Pathways. Well, if I go to that location, I'm going to get a tour, which a normal tour is just walking around and getting the history of the place. But I can't, whip out a K2 meter and start asking questions. They wouldn't allow that on a tour, or a normal tour. Nor would I probably be able to get to spend the night there and investigate just on my own. I'd probably have to make some sort of arrangement to do whatever it is I want to do. So it seems to me that you have a very good alternative here with Pathways to be able to get me some sort of introductory, or at least some sort of introduction to this some of these buildings so that I can get a look at them myself.
It's an introduction to our world of paranormal investigating. It's a all access ticket to those who are already in our world who want to say, oh, I've never been to that place. I've been waiting to see the inside of there forever. And It's also kind of got a little bit of a competition element to it. Again, I keep going back to the medieval times reference.
Yeah.
When people show up, they're going to be divided into houses or teams based on the Xenar card symbols. So everyone will, as a result, then get to bond with the other people on their team. And because so many of the things that are going to happen in between the video segments will be audience participation oriented, people, almost like Hogwarts, they'll get points for participation. There'll be trivia. They'll get points for that. So whose team is going to win? And once you access that competition angle within people, whatever it is, they're going to want to win. They're going to want to get involved. They're going to want to take personal ownership of whatever's going on. And that's going to be fun. We don't want this to be a passive experience. And even though some of it is sitting and watching, that's probably even going to be the smallest part of it.
Now, I know, Brian, you're a huge game developer and quite the gamesman yourself. Was the competition part of it? Was that your idea? Was that, or is
it does have
surprise? It was.
It does have my signature all over it. I'm always. I mean, I love games. I love the paranormal. That's why I made my own paranormal card game. And what I love about such things is the meta behind it. And the meta behind this tour, like as Dustin and I are planning it out, figuring out and letting it evolve, our first gig is going to be on January 29th in Durham, North Carolina. And for many, that's just like, okay, well, whatever, it's a city. But for those in the know, in the paranormal circles, that's a stone's throw from the Rhine Research Center, where parapsychology experiments first went down in the 1950s. This is a historic spot. And, you talk about dark tourism and people want to go to Lizzie Borden or want to go to other places where there have been murders and true crime. Well, for the paranormal person, the Rhine Research Center and the Xenar card experiments and what we're doing, we're kind of starting out where it all started.
Are you throwing a hint there?
You just learned something here on Darkness Radio tonight.
We're teaching people as we go. Yeah, we're really looking forward to it, and it was an important place for us to be starting the tour. And actually this just in, Brian, as I received a text message here, although on the website we had pitched Sarasota was supposed to be our second stop, due to some issues with obviously the way the world is right now, we had to call an audible, and I just received confirmation from our good friend Linda, who's helped manage these events for us, that we are a go for Phoenix, Arizona on March 19th. So we're going to be starting this thing off in North Carolina in January, and then in March 19th, we're going to be down in Phoenix. So Brian's going to have to update the website later, and we'll have that information up for you guys probably within the next 48 hours or so.
Later, nice. I'm pulling it up right now.
Nice. So Phoenix, Arizona instead of Sarasota. Actually, I'm partial to Arizona. I like the drier climate, so.
I love Arizona. It's a great place. Oh, it's funny enough. The last time I was there, I come from New England, where it's always cold and miserable. Last time I got to go to Arizona, when we landed, I had to sit in the plane for 2 hours because it was snowing and there was ice and they didn't know what to do. I was like, of course I'd come here and it would snow, but hopefully in March we'll have a nice time down there because I do like the warm, dry climate. I love Arizona, so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. Arizona is quite the place to be, especially, what I like about Arizona, especially in the wintertime, it does have a little bit of a cooler morning to it, and it doesn't get too god awful hot in the wintertime. So yeah, I'm partial to Arizona. I say good pick.
There we go.
All right, it's Darkness approved. We're doing well, Dustin.
That's right.
That's right. We're off to a good start.
It's Darkness approved. So with Pathways now, gosh, you've got me intrigued here. So
excellent.
I'm thinking, was the Rhine thing a hint? I'm a little dense. Was that a hint?
The underlying experiments, perhaps, maybe, might have a little something to do with it.
It's all involved. It's all a part of it. It's all intertwined.
Oh, see.
Meta.
See, meta. Okay.
I mean, just like at the, like you mentioned before, we talked about the conventions and we talked about the events and such. And what we always try to tell people, when you come to an investigation, wherever you may go, even if it's not an event investigation, maybe you're doing your own investigation. Mm-hmm. As anybody who does this work knows, all those spirits always around us, they may not always choose to communicate. So sometimes, you kind of have an off night, nothing's going on, or nothing that you can perceive is going on. But it doesn't mean there still aren't things there to learn and to enjoy, and like I always tell people, like, think about the history of the place that you're at, or the people that you meet. And I've done this experiment at some of my events before. I ask people, like, stand up if you're here by yourself, and a couple of people stand up. And then I ask other people, like, stand up if you're here with somebody that you met at one of these conventions before. And then you see more and more people stand up. Right. And it's that ripple effect of what we do, within the paranormal realm and just within our life, that ripple effect that each little individual soul has. And so by being a part of the Pathways journey, by being a part of this grand experiment, there's going to be a lot of different connection that we believe will start to make itself known.
Now, I'm curious, as it is now, and as we look at the dates, now keep in mind, you've switched up the second date, but as you look kind of down the potential destinations, there's a potential destination of Portland, Oregon, a potential date of Austin, Texas. I'm curious if the thought, and maybe tell me if I'm grasping the idea of this or not, because I think our audience may ask the same question. Is the idea to do this off-site of a haunted location and to bring the haunted location to you like from a theater, or is there the potential of doing this from a haunted location potentially? And
I think
go ahead, Brian.
I think that we're targeting theaters and auditoriums because we want the most people to be able to come view this. However, if we find a haunted theater or haunted auditorium, I would not rule that out. The cities, however, we want to get out to the rest of the country, because one of the biggest observations that people make when a new event is announced: when you come into the West Coast, when you come into the South, when you come in, because it's all very much on the East Coast and especially in the Northeast. So without even knowing where, two of the first places, I was like, yeah, we've got to go up to Portland or Washington. We got to get up there. I know Dustin was like, oh, let's go to Austin. We want to get to different places. And yeah, I mean, bringing the haunted location to those people who can't access them any other way, that's a definite side effect.
So the one example that hits me right between the eyes is, like, say, the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, or somewhere that's got potential paranormal activity, but at the same time you're doing Pathways there. It may not be the subject of what you're doing, but maybe there's something related to it in that.
Yeah, I definitely thought about, when we were discussing this, we've thought about some of those locations, and if things, did play right, it would not be against that type of thing for sure. The key, trying to bring, as Brian said, trying to bring the places to people that don't have access to it. So doing something in a haunted location could be fun for the onstage portion of it, for sure. But still, the focus is going to be upon bringing these remote places to people that normally would never be able to get to experience that.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I guess without sitting through the actual program / game, I it's hard for me to wrap my head fully around it. I get it. I get what it is, what you're doing now that we've said.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
We want it to be hard to understand.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, now that we've talked about it a little bit, I'm getting a better grasp of it. I think before the show began, I was a little dumbfounded as to what this is, but now I think I get it. I think before the show, I was looking over the website and I went, huh? But now I get it. I get it. You used the term, Brian, choose your own adventure.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I have.
You have. You've used that. I mean, along with, medieval times, but But choose
a
couple of times. But choose your own adventure. When you use that term with people, I think choose your own adventure. It gets the juices flowing with a lot of people, because anyone who's picked up a choose your own adventure book, I think, really gets people going. I mean, that excitement, that childlike excitement.
Well, let me tell you something. Like I love those books when I was growing up, and it's safe to assume, and I bet you've done this, I'm willing to put all my chips on this, that you would get to a point and it would say, are you going to go up the stairs or are you going to go down the hall? If you're going up the stairs, turn to page 13. If you're going down the hall, turn to page 30. You would put your finger on that page.
Yep.
You would go to page, and you would see those words at the end. You're like, no, I did not choose that. It was just just testing. And then you would end up going to the one that would keep the story going. Now, I can't say for sure, but it's entirely possible that there will be choices in your Pathways experience that will lead to that unfortunate end. Who knows? But that's the thing. You won't be able to stick your finger in the past choice, because actions have consequences. And this is another kind of teachable moment through entertainment, that, when you're out on an actual investigation, if you're going to choose to provoke or use a piece of gear or a Ouija board and not know how it works or the safeties behind it, you could have a bad time.
Interesting. So there is no way to go back on your decision in Pathways.
No.
This is it. You got to commit to it, and you got to go forward. We're all adults reading this book. No putting your fingers in the pages.
Okay. Now, okay. That's interesting, because, with Choose Your Own Adventure, like you said, there's different ways to cheat around the system. And I know Brian's very thorough with his games, to say the least. But do you feel like you've planned for every scenario?
We are planning for the basic choices. Obviously, every choice, we're whittling it down to kind of the big two, or sometimes maybe three. Obviously, there's a myriad of options in any decision tree that could be made. But for the Pathways event, since it's only a 2-hour event, we're pretty much saying, okay, look, these are the choices.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Now, is this one of those? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just saying, since we are putting it together, we kind of control the story arc options, but the story is always going to be up to whoever's there with us. So. In many ways, we are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams, for sure. So.
Okay. Let me ask you this: is this an age-appropriate event? Is this something where maybe there are things in Pathways that maybe are a bit too scary for, like, say, younger children, 8-9-year-old children, where maybe it's an adult-oriented event? Or is it something that maybe you can bring younger children, 7, 8, 9 years old?
Well, on the website, we have the events ages 13 and over.
Okay.
But that being said, I've been to plenty of theaters. I just saw Ghostbusters, I saw Spider-Man, and there's crying babies in the audience. So it is what it is. So obviously, we don't want babies, but 8 and 9-year-olds, I'm pretty sure Dustin would feel the same. But I feel like the younger you learn about these things and learn it responsibly from a good source, you're better off than growing up a certain way, maybe not being exposed to it, and then having to dig yourself out of the preconceptions or the bad learning or the unlearn what you've learned. We're spreading knowledge and we're kind of hiding it in entertainment. So I think it would be appropriate. Justin, I would hope nobody will get possessed when they come to our show, right?
Yes, I would hope so. I don't think we're going to go that way. It is, Brian and I work in this field for a while and working together. It's all about education. It's all about entertainment. We want to have a good time. We want people to learn new things. We want to learn from each other. We're not out there to fearmonger or try to do jump scares, that kind of stuff. Although that does sometimes happen within what we do. We're not out, pushing the demon arc.
Okay.
Right.
The reason I ask that, and this may seem like a weird question, but you do have and I sigh as I say this, you do have some parents that will sit down with their 6, 7, 8-year-old kids and they'll watch Ghost Adventures, or they'll watch Ghost Hunters, they'll watch, other paranormal TV shows, and will deem it an appropriate form of television for their young child. Now that's a parental decision that you make on your own. I don't know that I would make that parental decision for a child of mine. And
well, as Neo said in The Matrix, the problem is choice. And Pathways is all about which path will you choose. So that first choice comes before you even arrive, before you even buy tickets. So you're looking off to the side. You're like, hey, I got my Rugrats at home. Am I bringing them with me, or is it just is this date night? The choice is yours.
Right. And I think if people at home are listening to this and they think, ooh, game, paranormal, well, my kid already watches Ghost Adventures. Why not? And I that's why I'm asking, is there a age limit here? If you're bringing a, like, say, 8 or 9-year-old, well, they already watch Ghost Adventures. I already get the crap scared out of them by demons on a or perceived demons on a weekly basis. What harm could there be? Is this that type of party?
Yeah, we have the recommendation on there for 13 and up, but
right.
At some point it comes down to people's own discretion. But there's nothing that we're going to be doing or supplying that should be causing any issue.
Okay,
so it's not a pants optional thing, right, Brian?
I wouldn't rule it out, but there's probably some 21-year-olds that would probably shouldn't attend. But other than that, yeah,
pants optional.
FYI,
yeah.
Because this is how I roll, the Pathways to Phoenix, Arizona link is now active on the website.
I thought I heard some typing in the background.
You can get your tickets right now to either the Durham, North Carolina in January or Phoenix, Arizona in March.
I just refreshed my browser. There it is. Look at that.
Which event will you choose?
Well, this time of year with my arthritis, I'm going to Phoenix.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah. I mean, I love North Carolina and all, but warmer, drier weather, says Phoenix. So now let me ask you this: with Pathways, we've been talking mainly, ghosts and things that go bump in the night. Is there a potential to expand this to areas of aliens and Bigfoot and cryptids and cryptozoology?
Oh, don't you worry, Tim. We've got some sidebar journeys. It's going to be part of our social media involvement for everybody with Pathways, not just for those that are kind enough and smart enough to purchase tickets to the tour. But for those that are unable to make it for whatever reason, like we're all in our own financial space and things, so that's fine. We want everyone to be able to be involved. So while we're out on the road doing these things, there are going to be those sidebar elements that we're going to be exploring at various places, and we're going to be also leaving the choices up to those via social media. So yeah, man, well played, sir. Well done, Tim.
No, good. Yeah. I guess the other question I have here is, after the inaugural event in Durham, will there be a way that people will be able to get a taste of what it is that we're talking about here? Will there be like a teaser clip on the website or something that people can get a look at and say, oh, this is what they're talking about? Will you have some sort of a little mini screener that people can get a look at what it is you're doing?
When it comes to the production of this, I'm a video guy, so the teaser that's up there right now is so vague, but I love trailers. So I know a lot of people have gotten excited just pretty much on this drone footage that tells you nothing about the event. But that being said, we still have to produce the actual investigations that will be shown. So that's going to be happening very soon. So once we get access to footage, and we're going to starting January 3rd, there's going to be little video diaries on the website where people can, we'll check in and you'll get to see our progress. And then once we do have footage from a show, yeah, we'd be more than happy to show people like a little commercial of like, well, this is what you can expect to see at a Pathways performance. And the more the merrier.
So have the two of you ever investigated together before, at least not either on or off camera?
Not until 2020.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's it's funny. I'm going to be vague, but I'm also going to be specific.
Okay.
There was a location that we both did an event at many, many years ago. I was still scared. Dustin was with Ghost Hunters, and we came to this location, and all the tables were outdoors, so it was all on the lawn. And I remember sitting there, and me and my buddy Chris were like, okay, well, we're here. Who else is here? Who do we know? It's like, and I think arguably Dustin might have been the biggest cat there at the time. And I see him, he came out and he starts making his rounds to that table, the next table, the next table.
Because I'm a nice guy. I'm visiting everybody.
Yeah.
Because he's a nice guy. Then he skips over our table and goes to the other one. I'm like, this guy. I'm editing myself, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But for years. And I just told him about this the other day over a steak dinner. I said, Dustin,
But as I explained to Brian, just for the courtesy of the listeners and to defend my reputation and my own choices, despite being on the programs, despite doing all the lectures and things, I am very much an introvert. And so random people I don't know, I have no trouble approaching. But those that I've seen on other programs that I'm familiar with, but I don't know personally, I feel so awkward. So it wasn't like I was trying to snub Brian, but I was just like, oh, like he's not going to want to talk to me. So I just kind of go on my own way. But I've learned over the years that I really need to make more of an effort to always say hello. But I always feel really awkward. So that was the only reason. But but that ties into what we're doing now and where we're going. So it worked out kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, it's another kind of instant too. I remember we had a conversation many years ago about doing something together, and October is our lecture circuit madness. And I remember one October, Chris and I were on our way to some lecture. It might have been in Connecticut or Rhode Island, and Dustin was doing the same. And in that time of year, it's tradition where a lot of us sometimes just meet up on the road. Like I've stopped to have conversations with John Zaffis on like turnpike exits where we just kind of stop. We check in with each other and then continue on our journeys. And I remember Dustin and I had one of those stopovers where we kind of infamously hopped on Facebook Live or whatever the new streaming was at the time. We're like, all right, guys, look out for this thing we're doing next year. And then silence for like 6 years.
Yeah, it never happened. But this is going to happen. But yes. Well, I think it was Periscope. I think we're on Periscope at that time, Brian.
Oh, my God.
Lord.
Periscope.
Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Periscope?
That's like mentioning Friendster or MySpace.
Right.
Like, remember those?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, good times. But
I'm old.
Good times. So let me ask you this. When it comes to investigating then, do you guys feel like there is much of a chasm between the two of you as far as techniques go? Do you feel like you're simpatico when it comes to how you investigate?
I think we're a good Venn diagram where the center portion of it is probably the majority of it. We each have our differences that make us unique. But it's funny because once we started doing events together within the last 2 years, we almost never debrief each other. We just kind of launch right into it. Right. I look over to my right. I see him there. I know he's got it. He knows I've got it. And we don't rehearse. We just it's almost paranormal how well we work together.
Yeah, it's been really interesting just from the first event. It is just like a really natural handoff, and you investigate for years. You work with different people, not just in the investigation itself, but even presenting. You may be someone that you can work with all the time on camera, or just doing your own personal investigations. You do great, and you go do a presentation, and it's like the chemistry isn't there. Like you don't know how to take each other's nonverbal cues to take the handoff to talk about something else, or to continue on with the topic, or to circle back to a topic. But with the two of us, it just seemed you're really in step with that kind of thing. And we even did a charity event recently, a fundraiser for the Oliver House up in Massachusetts and for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And as we were arriving at the place, we didn't have it all worked out. Like we didn't rehearse everything. We're like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to make it a debate between Scrooge and his nephew Fred Hollywell in modern time. But we didn't rehearse any of the points. We did everything just as improv, and it went fantastic. We had a really nice night together. Everybody had a good time. So there is some paranormal chemistry at play for sure, and it's interesting that the timeline had to weave the way it did for us to get where we are.
And 2 words, reindeer onesies.
That's right. If we raised $4,000, we'd wear reindeer onesies, and thankfully we raised over that. So there we were in front of everybody, and everyone's like, "Oh, these are so soft." But then I realized I think they just wanted to rub us, which was kind of odd.
Well,
we're good luck. We were a good luck charm.
Sure, chalk it up to that if you want.
We saved Christmas.
There you go.
Right.
Reindeer onesies. Well, we all got to do what we have to do for charity, right, boys?
I still have mine. I have it in my closet. I told my daughter, I said, if you come over with some boy and I'm going to embarrass you, I'm going to put this thing on and just come downstairs, not say anything, just get like a beer and go back to my room.
Either that or sit there in the reindeer onesie with a shotgun and just call it sweet, sweet irony. I don't know what that means. So let me ask you this. Pathways seems like it would be, if you could condense it down into a half an hour, a really awesome paranormal game show.
Could be. We'd have to have a nice big set and production and lights and
Yes.
have our question cards. And welcome to another episode of Paranormal Pathways. I'm your host, Brian J. Cano. As with me as always is
I'm Dustin J. Pari, and thanks to our lovely dancing girls that also were here on set.
the Pathways girls. Give it up for them.
Yes.
Give it up.
Do you see this as I mean, mind you, you have to write the treatment real quick, but do you see this as a potential extension of something you could put on television, or is it too far-fetched?
It's something that could get easily stolen from us.
Well,
Yeah. For sure.
all right, real quick, copyright, Dustin and Brian.
That's it. Yeah, get typing, Brian.
Yeah, here you go.
You did the website change real quick, Brian. You can certainly type this up by the time we get done, or by the time this show is posted. Yeah.
You know, I'm always open to doing. This is something that I tell producers all the time, and people who come to me saying, "Oh, would you be interested in doing this?" I say, "Look, I'm always interested in doing different things, interesting things. I don't think TV is interested in doing different things per se. I'm a little bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to that. I'll be the Scrooge when it comes to the TV shows, because bah, humbug, you know. They say they want different, but it's kind of all the same thing packaged with different skins. But that being said, I'm still hopeful that we could bring our show to people, and then if like what you guys are doing and they want to do something with it and not cut us out of it,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Well, you think you probably have to write yourself in on the pitch, don't you?
Yeah, I did that. Still got kicked out.
Still got kicked out.
Really?
Yeah. Paranormal Highway was my show.
Oh my
Ended
God.
up with Jack Osborne.
Really?
Yeah, I actually went out and filmed with Jack, and we had a really nice time. And then we're gonna take Jack and put a girl on instead. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's
You've blossomed. You look so feminine, Dustin.
Oh my God.
very voluptuous. But yeah, that's the way it goes. Yeah, I didn't make a big public thing about it. I didn't cry about it. I was still on as a silent producer. They never used any of my ideas. But the paycheck showed up, and I was like, well, I gave birth to something. It wasn't anything that I had wanted it to be. They changed it completely. Not to say it was good or bad, but it wasn't what the concept was supposed to be. But yeah, that was when I left GHI. That was my baby.
And they took it from you, and I won't use bad language here, but they.
Yes. But
wow.
yeah, that was the way of it. But and nothing against Jack or any of the cast members I ended up on the show.
No.
Like, I know them all. I had a great time working with them. It's LA. It's business. It's
Right.
slimy sometimes.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Sometimes you want a unicorn and you get a goat with one horn. But you make the best of it.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Wow, I had no idea. Well, okay, let's not make Pathways into a TV show, I guess, then, huh?
Continuing to learn things here.
I guess you ask a question, sometimes you get the answer you didn't think you'd get.
You go.
Well, pathways, actually the website is whichpathwillyouchoose.com. That's where we're going to send you to get your tickets. Durham, North Carolina is the first date, January 29th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Durham Arts Council PSI Theater. And it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful time. I get the concept. I totally get the concept, guys, of what it is you're trying to do here. And it sounds like something. Now, let me ask you this. Now, okay, so you've done this concept, or you're taking this concept around the country to different theaters. Now I'm going to bring it full circle from the beginning of what we started here almost an hour ago. Okay. Is this something that if I, like, let's say if I'm Brad Blair over at Michigan Paracon and I come to Dustin and Brian and I say, would you bring, if I paid you guys enough money, would you guys bring this to Michigan Paracon? Is it something you could do on stage there?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think we totally could. And Brad Blair and Tim Ellis up there, those guys are great. It's a great convention. Yeah. And they've actually talked to us about speaking there together next year. So, anything's possible.
Because from everything you're talking about here and explaining here, I think this would be an awesome thing to see on the big stage. I don't know how many. When you say you break people into teams, I don't know how many people you can put on a team or how big you can go.
Well, it's the Xenar cards have 5 symbols. So if you have 5 people, it's 1 person per team. You have 50 people, it's 10 people per team. Simple math. So thinking back to the space in Michigan, I just see it as seating areas. Like, okay, that seating over there that's the wavy lines. The one right in the middle here, that's the square. The one right over there, that's a circle. And it's just where they're sitting. When they come in, they're going to be herded into those seating areas. So it's like, right, you go over here, you go over there, you go over here. Just like, again, what am I going to say? Medieval times, you get seated in your section, and then you root for your team.
I just think that'd be an awesome idea to bring to Michigan Paracon or some of the bigger paranormal conventions. Again, it's one of those things where they have to meet your price to do it. But I think it'd be something
a lot
different.
Easier than than my History of the Paranormal exhibit, which Brad did ask me to bring, and I said I would love to, but it might be cost prohibitive to do it within a convention. But Pathways, have Brian and Dustin will travel.
Yeah,
yeah. And I think it would be something that would, as you're pointing out, it's not only interactive, but with people playing along, I think it would be something that would not only hold people's attention, but get them excited. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, like we said before, the website is whichpathwillyouchoose.com. Get your tickets for Durham, North Carolina, January 29th, or go to Phoenix, Arizona, March 19th. Either way, get in on this experience, whether you be experienced in the paranormal or you're just a casual observer and want to get into the paranormal and want to see what it's all about. Whichpathwillyouchoose.com. Dustin, Brian, I want to thank you both for joining us tonight.
And thanks for the opportunity, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope to see both you guys down the road here very, very soon. And that just means I'm alive and kicking and out on the road, finally. But I hope to see you both very, very soon. Folks, I want to thank you very much for a great week of shows, an entertaining week of shows here on Darkness Radio. We'll be back again next week with more in the best of paranormal podcasting. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week here on Darkness Radio.